I'm Susan Regan, host of Connecticut Valley Views. And my guest today is Christine Rebstock, who is a self-defined transgendered individual who, although born as a male, realized by her teen years that she and was somehow different from her male peers relative to sexual orientation. Christine, you are a Meriden, Connecticut native who has made a name in the lanes in New England from your college days and as a touring amateur in bowling. So it's very, you've become well known in that area, and we're looking forward to hearing about that as well. So at 53, you have come out and publicly stated that it feels like a weight that has been lifted off your shoulders. Is that your correct quote? That's what you stated.
Yeah, it did. I felt like I hid myself for too long. And Susan, thank you for having me on your show. I'm very honored to be a guest.
Well, delighted to have you. Delighted. And I think we're going to explain to people, and I think it's very candid and brave of you to do that. And it's important that people understand where you're coming from, and hopefully what we can do is to help with regard to our youth that are growing up in some very confusing times. So you've been bowling with your competitors for quite a while, and all that time. Now, you felt this way in your teen years, and all during that other period between then and a year or so ago when you decided to come out. How did people react to you, or how were you feeling? Can you describe all that time where you felt you were hiding?
Well, I knew something, like I said, something different was high school, but I don't know if it was gender confusion or gender confused. You know, there's a big difference between the two. Gender dysphoria is your medical and it's brutal to live with. If you're confused, maybe something goes through your mind, it's not going to affect the way you live. As time went on, it did. But people ask me, how come you didn't come out sooner? Well, at 25 years old, I had been on a national collegiate championship bowling team at Erie Community College. 2-year schools bowl with the 4-year school, so we won the overall thing. And I was also covering professional hockey for some various newspapers. I was a columnist for the American Hockey League because we had a team. Because you had New Haven Nighthawks then, and you had Springfield Indians. I also was covering Hartford Whaler games, and also was sitting on the PBA Tour telecast. I'm like, this is great. You're covering major league professional sports.
Right.
And then later I started bowling in some of those major tournaments too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how do I come out? I thought it was best just you live with something inside of you for the rest of your life. As time went on for the 30s, the 40s, and early 50s, I couldn't. It hit me like so hard. The coming out process was around Memorial Day in 2019. And telling my wife, that didn't go well. Just put it this way. 40% of transgender individuals attempt suicide, and I'm one of them. And the fact it was 2 floors right below me in a car. The house was empty. I pulled the CO detector and went in the car and the garage and shut and laid the seat back, started the car.
Wow.
But that was my greatest failure now, because I'm here to tell people, hey, I hope no one will ever feel like I did that day. If you do, please call the National Suicide Hotline. If you're in the trans community, call the Trans Lifeline. At the very least, reach out to someone. You know, life's too short. You will get through it.
Well, those are very good words, and they're very strengthening to people out there that are in these. And that's what I think we're getting to in the essence of this conversation, is because we have our youth that are being exposed to all of these things, actually taking over the authority from parents when it comes to sexual orientation.
Yes.
And so this is what your message is to the youth and to the parents and to the educational cult, I want to say, that seems to be taking over the schools, and as I said, taking away the authority from parents. Now, during your period of time where you were trying to determine when should I come out, the confusion that you were going through. You said that it started in your teens when you felt that way. Did it reach a peak at some point prior to that? Did you feel that friends were noticing the difference? Was it a sense of how other people were reacting to you, or was this all within yourself?
This was in myself. No one had a clue about anything.
I see.
My spouse. When I did come out publicly, coming out to my wife was the summer of 2019. That's when I made my debut. Coming out publicly was November 2020, a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. That's when I changed my Facebook from male to female. I was pleasantly shocked. The bowling community rallied around me. Some grades of the game that I watched on ABC growing up, they're the first ones to send messages of support.
Fantastic.
People around here who I was skeptical about were the first ones to give me a hug. And so if someone gives you trouble, I got your back. It was so hard.
That's very important to know for people who may be struggling with the same issue that you've had for years. So that's important to know, that people should be brave and be true to yourself. You really do have to be true to yourself. I mean, that's actually part of one's integrity. And when you're a politician, you have to be true to yourself and what you believe. You can't give speeches and actually not be that person. So I think this is very critical. Now, when you have been talking to people and people who were good friends, and you came out, how did you actually publicly come out? You did it on Facebook.
That's how I did it, yes.
Okay, so it was on Facebook. And then did the media get hold of you somehow?
Actually, I was in several trans groups. We have one in Connecticut. We have a writer, Carly Webb, and Dawn Ennis. Dawn Ennis is she's involved in the media, different sports, different publications, but they were both involved without sports. So it was Carly Webb that reached out to me. My first tournament as my true self was a local on Thanksgiving morning at Lakewood Lanes up in Waterbury.
Okay.
I stunk to bed, but she was there the whole time.
Okay.
She had network cameras. She was there recording every shot I did. And the people were amazed because she had that network camera with the lights on.
Yes.
Yeah, people were like, "Who's that?" I go, "Well, she used to work in production of the PBA tour in her days at ESPN." And people were overwhelmed and like, "Wow!" And the next day we did the Zoom for the article that appeared on Sports Magazine back on November 30th, 2020. Okay. From that led to other interviews. There's a YouTube program locally here in Connecticut that I was a guest on. And then some bowling publications picked up on me, and I did some bowling shows. Sharing my story. I could say some too. In my time out as a woman, I've been in 2 fashion shows. One is a model, one is an MC, and I made a cover of a bowling publication last year.
Well, see, now this is very exciting, I think, because not only have you been able to become yourself, but you've actually taken yourself into a new chapter. New doors have opened that may not have opened if you had never done this.
Oh, absolutely. I think, coming out, Susan, empowered me to speak up for those who can't.
Yes.
I was kind of reserved about that. But just coming out, it was like, I believe in God. And it was like, when you come out, you have to speak up. Speak for trans awareness. Let people know your story. We're 1% of the population. Many people I come in contact, I'm the first trans person they know. And that goes for my trans brothers and sisters. You're in public, you're going to be many times you're the first person they see who's trans.
Yes.
Be willing to have questions asked to you. Educate, not agitate. That's my philosophy.
Well, now you use the right word to segue into this. When we say educate, let's talk about what you see are the greatest concerns for our youth and schools and boards of education and all of the people who seem to be taking over, as I said previously, for parents' authority when it comes to speaking to their own children with regard to sexual orientation. I know you have, and this is part of why you were willing to speak to the media, because you have great concern with regard to what's happening to our youth.
I do not agree with the idea. It's called social emotional learning. I call it for what it is, social engineered learning. Many cases that comes from the Department of Education and the school lunch grants that schools get.
Mhm.
I don't blame the individual teachers. They're being told what to do. It comes from what teachers unions, your school superintendents, and it comes from the White House. And basically that part of that curriculum is young kids are being taught sex and gender ideology. It doesn't belong in the public schools. Ideology means confusion, which is different from gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria, what I have is it's a medical condition. We need to go see your primary care physicians, then mental health, and it takes a few months, several months to a year, just to get on hormone replacement therapy. But we're seeing it. Some states have laws where if a kid who is confused about their gender could go to a teacher, and the school systems are taking it upon themselves to get these kids medication. And we've seen minor age kids get surgery. And
Now,
I think,
go ahead.
I think this year we're going to see more of it because the Assistant Secretary of Health, Rachel Levine, appointed by our president, she's a transgender woman herself. She's advocating part of the quote, affirming care for minor age kids is medicine, which could be puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, and or surgery. I cannot tell you how wrong that is. In fact, that's child abuse. I'm not going to mince words. She's a child abuser for that. Your body has to go through its natural puberty to develop. And to be told that, I bought into the notion that I've heard that all puberty blockers are reversible. I'm like, damn, how come I didn't have that when I was a kid?
Yes.
But I realized I heard some in a support group meeting about hormones. Someone was saying, hey, I was given Lupron. I'm like, Lupron, I thought I heard that in puberty blockers. Hormone replacement therapy isn't reversible. So if they're giving that to us adults, why are kids getting it? So that I honed in on that. And then I heard about what's going on in school. I'm like, what? This isn't right. If a child's confused, that's between the child, their parent, the family doctors, family therapist. So when I say this, I'm not trying to say you're anti-trans kid or anti-LGBTQ kid.
Yes.
I just want them to get the proper way to get help.
Yes.
You know, teachers are therapists, so too.
Right. So you mentioned that, the White House and our current administration. What do you see as the reason for doing this? Because this is a very invasive thing when you are seeking to actually physically change a child, mentally, emotionally, interfering with their normal growth. Is this national, and it obviously trickles down to local and high schools and so forth. So do you see a reason for it as to why they want to take over this and become the arbitrators of this trend? Is it a political thing, or what? How do you see this overall?
I'll be honest, things for our community were quiet under Trump. Even though I don't agree with some of the things, I could go a day or two without seeing some anti-trans stuff on the radio or seeing social media. As soon as I wake up, I hear or see something.
Yes.
I think as soon as Biden took office, right after he declared war on fossil fuels and our energy independence,
yes,
he was advocating rights for transgender people. That put the spotlight in the trans community. We became the political football that everyone wanted to kick around. So now you have people on the right are reacting, people on the left, and we're the collateral damage.
Well, all right. So let me move on to this other question. You have actually been involved with the LGBTQ commission in your area. And because you have been so open and so candid about your position, how have they reacted to you taking this route?
We haven't talked about my stance on what we should do for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say not in the commission, but I've been on other support groups where there's not too many people conservative, only myself and the host, where everyone agreed with me about, hey, what we should do with the kids. It doesn't belong in this school. They shouldn't get medicine or surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It should be for when they're legal aged.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all, there were some other people across both sides that agreed. That topic hasn't come up in our Middletown LGBTQA commission meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Or more for just community events and planning next year's Pride festivals. And now we're more, the founder of Middletown Pride, the assistant general counsel of Middletown, Christopher Fort,
Mm-hmm.
he's encouraging us on the commission for many events that we had. He can't do it all, he said. He was. So there's a few events I chair and I'll continue. And he wants more people to be more independent that way.
Yes.
But we haven't had the discussions about the schools or anything.
All right. Now, if you wouldn't mind sharing with you, you had I guess I'll call it an incident with Mr. Blumenthal.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, June 1st is the start of Pride Month, and I'll be honest about Pride Month. If it went away, I won't cry a tear. Actually, Pride Month brings more bad press, ill will to us in the LGBT community.
Okay.
So he shows up. We have a Pride flag raising ceremony, City Hall, Middletown, on the lawn that you could see from Route 9.
Yes.
So after the flag got raised, I came up. I introduced myself to him as he spoke, and I introduced myself as a conservative trans woman, as a commissioner. Thank you for coming. It's nice to reach across the aisle, bring people together. I gave him a hug. That didn't go over well. So if looks could kill, I would have been dead on the grass.
Oh dear.
But it didn't end there. So that was on Wednesday, on June 1st. So Saturday and the 4th, we have our Middletown Pride Fest, which is the parade and the rally.
Yes.
Middletown's parade is biggest in Connecticut. And let's see, Providence is bigger. Philadelphia, New York City is bigger. All around the whole East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that big. So being part of the commission, we lead the parade. It goes to the police motorcycles to get going.
Sure.
Convertible with the marshals and us hold the Middletown Pride banner. And there's many groups behind us in the side streets. So the dignitaries march with us. Blumenthal came with Emperor Lamont and Assistant Emperor Bisowicz and some other local politicians.
All right.
Well, when they came, they didn't come within 10 feet of me. And we had a small gathering area. It wasn't like a football field. It was a house or two. We're trying to get under the shade.
Sure.
Yeah, I was ostracized, or excuse me, stuttering on that one. But yes, I was left out.
Yeah, well, that's just rude. It's rude, discourteous. I don't care the reason for why they felt their way, but it's discourteous. And look, it did nothing but make them look bad. I'm sure other people noticed. I'm sure it was quite evident to them.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll put on the record too that Democrat Party, they're, quote, the friends of the LGBT community.
Yes.
But from my finding, so that following Monday on the 6th, we went to the New Britain Pride flag raising ceremony.
Okay.
Being commissioner in Middletown, we get invited to a lot of other cities' events.
Mm-hmm.
Because there I met George Logan and Bob Stefanowski.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me business cards. They want to meet with me. I met other Democrat politicians. The only one, he was a Middletown City Commissioner too, and he dropped his campaign, was Anthony Mangiafico. He's really good to me. Every other Democrat politician, they didn't give me business cards. They didn't want to speak with me. And every Republican candidate I've talked to has given me business cards or email. They've showed interest. It's more, can I say, for the Democrats? Just the thought that they want to reach out to me, that makes me feel good, and they want to learn. That's a step in the right direction.
Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that you are obviously you are a conservative in nature? I mean, do you feel it's the transgender thing that's keeping them at distance, or do you think it's because of your conservativeness?
I think Republicans tend to be, they're not great with LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
I know I could help bridge that gap, and I believe they realize I can help bridge that gap.
Sure. Well, about 7 years ago, we did a program that involved transgender individuals and subjects similar to this. And one of the concerns that came up was when they had required a doctor. Now, you mentioned, PCP doctor and so forth. And that seemed to be a major issue, to feel comfortable for whatever medical help that you need and to feel comfortable with the doctor knowing that you are as such. Do you think that is still a concern, or do you think that has been modified since then?
I think more doctors are getting better with that. The truth of the matter is, we had someone who went through medical school, but she's a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
At a Zoom meeting we had.
Mm-hmm.
Medical school doesn't spend a lot of time on trans healthcare issues.
Mm-hmm.
So many of our PCPs, they don't know.
Right.
I had worked for Middlesex Health. They have one of the country's leading comprehensive trans healthcare programs. What keeps them from being like an elite is they don't offer gender reassignment surgery. But for everything else, I highly recommend. They help. From my attempted suicide, they got me to the woman I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for that. Not only because I used to work there,
Mm-hmm.
I was also on their transgender committee and pride committee at the hospital until my job got outsourced like 6 months ago.
Sure. Well, with regard, going back to children and what parents are facing with regard to this whole subject, if a parent is sensing that their child seems to be in a confused state or is being, I guess, tutored, if you will, at school, what would you recommend is a route for them to take? Because I know parents face all kinds of things with the Board of Education with regard to what the curriculum will be and so forth. So what would you suggest, or to whom do you think they can go in order to intercede in this going any further into medical or actual physical changes? What would you recommend might be a first step?
All right, for a parent, I've had parents contact me, what should I do with my kid? Luckily here in Connecticut, we have the New Haven Pride Center, the Triangle Community Center in Norwalk. They are leading centers for LGBT people. They have good youth programs.
Okay.
We also have Q+. They specialize in working with kids and LGBTQ kids. We have PFLAG. We have a trans man named Tony Ferriola, who was featured in a TV show called Transitioned. Mm-hmm. He takes care of our trans kids. I would get a parent in the research with that and groups with that. I also recommend, we could do a lot for your kid, but I'm not going to recommend to you to give your kid to see a doctor giving your kid puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, or surgery. Mm-hmm. Let them be legal adults. Let them grow up. You don't want to intercept their body's growth.
Well, I think that's critical. And that brings me to the question of very scary factor that if in fact they were changed now, physically, emotionally, otherwise, the pill blockers, what if they get to a point in their life when they're 20 years old and it's irreversible and they go, why did I do that? And so forth. These kinds of things need to be faced, because people will, not only will they be further confused at a later stage in life, but again, could be leading to depression and perhaps suicide because of that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what we should do for the kids and what will happen to a kid who gets medicine and detransitions. First, I'll use trans kids as trans boys and trans girls just for this argument. We could call them confused, but I'll just say for the trans boys, we could get them binders. Binders will compress your breast, article of clothing. For the trans girls, we could get them a gaff. A gaff is like a thong that smooths out their front.
Yes.
And we could get them like fake breast. At the end of the day, you take the clothes off, the fake breasts get removed. If they detransition, their body and their mind should be better. There's no harm, physical harm. Now, if you take the trans girl, but I'll speak to that from my own experience. Let's say, okay, school just started. So now they start their sophomore year. They've just been been given hormone replacement therapy. Let's 2 years from now, when I go to senior year, what if, hey, I'm confused. I'm not really a girl. I'm really a boy. I want to go back to being a boy. Because of that HRT, they're going to grow their breast. These are going to have to be surgically removed now. And they've been through one set of hormone change, 2 years. Now they're going to have to go back. Your hormone changes, makes your mind wacky. It does a number. It does a number that no one's really talks about. Your emotions, and you're also going to have. If they're going through puberty, their body's going to be hourglass. So you're going to go back to pants. The boys' pants aren't going to fit quite right. And boys' pants have pockets. Girls' pants tend not to.
Yes.
And their growth might be stunted, so they're going to lose their strength. So if they play gym class, they're going to be beat up physically because they don't have the strength yet.
Well, yeah, I hate to cut you off, but I do want to get this in with regard to contact information that people could go to either to reach you somehow or other.
Go on the Middletown, Connecticut Pride website.
Okay.
You can see my name. I am on they'll meet the team. You'll see a picture of me and you'll have my name. Then you go from there to social media. I'm on a lot of social medias here.
And this show,
I always welcome questions. So.
And this show hopefully will help. Well, it's been great talking to you. I appreciate your candidness. And I want to remind all my viewers to see all of our shows on CTValleyViews.com. It's been my pleasure having Christine Rebstock as my guest today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.